Welcome to the Bachelor Universe podcast. I am your host, Jim Alexander. Wow, it's been a while. There's so much that has happened on this season's Bachelorette. I mean, we have had controversy and feuds every week. Kind of skipped on you guys for a bit. A European trip. But I'm back to discuss all the happenings that have happened on the show so far for over the last month or so. I mean, we have seen so much. The show has really been centered around Sean Schnozling, as I call him. The whole Ryan Gosling, Calvin Harris thing. Yeah. Well, Schnozling sounds like a good nickname for him. And then his feud with Nick, who he calls the other guy. So I'll do the same thing. That's been the storyline of the season, mixed in with a lot of other stuff. You had your Clint and JJ whole fiasco with those two guys, just having that love affair. JJ was sent home packing, but no, actually he was not. Clint was sent home packing, but JJ might as well have been also. JJ actually lasted a while. JJ has somehow made through the season, starting out as a villain, then kind of going undercover in a sense that he was not heard from much after Nick came back. Well, came back to the show, yeah, for the second year in a row. But yeah, we have not heard that much from JJ going on further in the season, and he kind of went into the shadows. So from villaining and being the top villain, he went to kind of forgotten in a sense. Then you had your Koopa thing. Well, that was earlier. We've always talked about, but then the Koopa thing got escalated with Ian. Yeah, Ian, the Princeton educated smart guy. Well, he kind of made a clown out of himself. Yes, he did. Ian went off on Caitlyn. He basically told her that she is looking to just kiss a bunch of guys and she's not there for the right reasons or isn't serious about finding someone to marry. And he really called her out on her thing and really gave it to her. Well, obviously, that was the end of Ian. Didn't last much longer after that. So that was his swan song, as you might say. So Ian was gone quickly after the outburst. He kind of eliminated himself. He was definitely aware of doing that going into it. So that was the end of Ian, a guy who you really didn't think would just blow up on someone, and especially Caitlyn. So that was surprising to see that Ian changed his tune and went from quiet guy to guy that's calling out people. But that was Ian's run coming to an end there. After that, we had we had the Tony thing before that, actually, not after Ian. Tony's controversy throughout the season, how weird and odd he was. Yeah, the Tony the healer. Didn't heal much in terms of love. Maybe some plants, but not in terms of love. But this show has really kind of been the whole season. I can't remember a season that's been so focused on two guys, and it really has been set up from the get go since Nick arrived. It was the Nick versus Sean feud. I mean, you had Joshua in there voicing his complaints here and there, but it was the Nick versus Sean Schnozling feud all season long. And honestly, if it had been any other guy, there's no doubt about it that Caitlyn would have sent him packing a long time ago. The way Sean was calling out Nick and calling out her, in a sense, she must be head over heels from the beginning over this guy, because there's no way she would keep anyone else around who would question her as much or just be so jealous like Schnozling has been. But she has kept him around, made excuses for him, and that's why he has made it to the final episode versus Nick. So how fitting, the guy that randomly pops into the show. Don't think it was that random, but he and Sean Schnozling are in the end. Other guys who were stiff competition in a sense. Well, no pun intended. If you saw the golfing outing with Sean Schnozling, who was naked last week, But Jared had a solid run, actually. That's surprising. I mean, Jared looking like a 12-year-old that should be going into, well, fifth or sixth grade. And he made it fairly far. He made it to the final bottom four. Who would have thought that? I mean, the kiddish looking Jared with that, uh, sharpied on facial hair. He probably drew it because there's no way you can have such scraggly, well, badly placed facial hair as Jared did. And that was a surprise for some reason that he had such a connection with Caitlyn. I never expected that from the beginning, but that's what ended up happening is Jared lasting so far, and I'm losing my voice. Jared should really be proud of his run. No one expected him to last that far, and he did. For some reason, he just had a connection with Caitlyn that's kind of unexplainable. Every time there was a cocktail party right before a rose ceremony, you would see Jared get alone time with Caitlyn, and they would just make out or do something. They had their little helicopter ride date, and they had their dance in a church played by the Cranberries private concert. Weird in a church. Don't get it. But yeah, the 12-year-old had a quite a run there on the show, so Jared should be proud of himself. Another guy that everyone loved was Ben Z, as I call him, my favorite hand cream lotion, because Ben Z sounds like a lotion you would use. So Ben Z was a lot of people's favorite, just a genuine, nice, quiet kind of guy. Been through a lot in his life, and people expected him to go pretty far. So did I, and he kind of did. He did get eliminated in Ireland, and I think he made it, to the top, well, bottom five. So he had a nice run there too. Just as nice of a guy he was, I think Caitlyn kind of kept him around for that, but there just wasn't much chemistry whenever they were together. Something was off. They never were together, in that sense. There's just that attraction chemistry. I didn't sense it. Then, of course, you had the third guy. The third guy that just missed out on the final, and that was Ben H. Yes, Mr. Zero Personality, as I call him, Mr. Zero, because he puts you to sleep. He bores the hell out of you, and if you weren't tired, you will be after watching him talk and do things. I mean, he's as cookie cutter as they get. The guy's dressed in preppy sweaters all the time and very well put together. That's not a bad thing, but it's just a boring thing. And it meshes with his personality. Maybe he's just a nice guy. I mean, maybe that's his deal. But the thing is, he's just too boring and kind of depressing to be around. He's always kind of mentioning how he's scared to open up because someone in a past that he's dated didn't love him back, and it's not really a big deal. He made it sound like it's a huge deal when he had something to tell Caitlyn that was going to be groundbreaking, and it was basically him telling that his ex sort of never loved him or something along those lines. So yes, Mr. I take things too seriously and personal. Ben H. People love him. I mean, he's a handsome guy and all, and like I said, kind of well put together, preppy and all, but the women love Ben H, and that was obvious at the men tell all, which I will be getting to in a minute or two. So Ben H was kind of a front runner in a sense later on in the game, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that earlier in the season. I kind of thought he would fade away, which he never did. So that was Ben H, and he made it to the final three, but he had no chance against Schnoz and the other guy, which leads me to their feud. That is something that's been playing out over the last few episodes. It's their feud. Schnozling has just hated on the other guy for reasons probably of him coming onto the show late and having such a strong connection with Caitlyn, thing that's been bothering him. Matters didn't get better when he finds out. Well, the thing that happened that kind of threw things off on the show was Caitlyn had slept with Nick. Yes, that was their little excursion in Ireland. So Caitlin takes him on a date, ends up hooking up with him. Not something these guys were probably expecting or happy about, that's for sure. No one knew about it, but Nick just got his ways about him, the sneaky, manipulative ways of kind of getting things done. So they did hook up. It was obvious. Caitlin admitted to it on numerous occasions that well, when the cameras were there, not to the guys. The thing is, she felt so much for Nick for sure, but for Sean schnozzling that she decided later on in the game, when they were down to the final guys, that she would tell him before he finds out. She was just paranoid and worried that he would find out that she had hooked up with Nick. As you can imagine, he didn't take it lightly. I mean, of all guys, of all the people, she hooks up with the guy he hates the most. Well done, Caitlin. So he had a mini tantrum again, and of course, freaking out, and jealousy ensued, just being the schnoz as he is. And he had threatened to leave at the rose ceremony. He took her aside to talk to her, and of course, he decided to stay because he's in love with her, and he's made it clear that he is. Well, things got changed around this season. Instead of your typical, 4 hometown dates, there was no hometown in that way. What had happened is they kind of flipped overnights and the hometowns. Did no overnights happen first? And that's usually reserved for the final 3. So that's usually after the hometown, which was odd. They kind of rushed it, and but this season has been odd. Everything's been odd. I mean, we talk about no rose ceremonies to close out the show ever. So that was definitely a change too. And the hometown were down to 2 guys, and the overnights were 3. So the overnights were with Ben H, Schnozzling, and Nick. Now Jared just missed out on the hometowns, but I mean, come on, can't have a kid on overnight or a hometown date. He should be getting ready for school starting. So clearly, there's not much that probably happened with Ben H on that overnight. He just wanted to talk. But Caitlin did say that they slept an hour only or something along those lines. Don't know how much I believe that. Clearly, we know what happened with Nick as he woke up with his shirt off, so must have been round 2 for them. And I'm almost sure as it gets that Schnoz got some action too on that night. No doubt about it. So then, of course, Ben H gets eliminated. Kind of saw that one coming. And that set up the hometown, 2 hometowns. And the hometowns weren't done as typical. They weren't really hometowns. It was just like a meet the family type of thing. She did not go to anyone's hometown. Instead, they all met in a central location, the families. They all came out to Utah, and it was Nick's family and his mother, who cries at everything, and the family of the Schnoz, which consisted of his 2 sisters, his father, and an aunt. His mother couldn't make it for whatever reason. Apparently, the Bachelorette's not important enough. But Nick had about 12 people, most of them his brothers and sisters. That is one huge family. His kid sister was interviewing Caitlin, which is the new standard apparently. Kids get to grill the Bachelorette. And his mother, of course, as we've seen in the past, she's quite a crier over Nick, and she was crying at everything. So, interesting family there. But, I mean, they seem like good people. So, I guess they're looking out for their son, which you can't blame. He did get burned once, but will a second time be the charm? That's the question that we will find out at the finale. Sean's father had a bit of a reservation about this whole process and what he's really seeing in Caitlin. His sisters gave him the approval, so that was good, according to Sean. And of course, the big thing that was between these 2 guys, the last 2 episodes were basically ended and started on the fact where Sean came into Nick's place and started calling him out and just laying into him saying how he hates him, how he doesn't want to see him again, and trust me, there is no love lost between those two guys. Nick is really on the defensive. You saw him kind of like, uh, in shock in a sense. He didn't know how to take the onslaught and barrage that was coming at him, the torpedoes that uh, were being fired by Sean. So that was something that was controlled. This whole interrogation, in a sense, this sit down blast session was really controlled by the schnoz. He was the one full in control, and Nick was just kind of trying to take it in with a shocked expression and look. Didn't know how to quite take to it. I think Nick's one of those guys that those guys in kind of in high school that they're just kind of sleazy. You don't know what to expect. They backstab you, and 1 second they seem so nice to your face, and then talk behind you. And he did because he told Caitlin that Schnozling is an Eskimo brother. Apparently, that's a new thing. Eskimo brother with some other dude. Basically, meaning they double team to rock a country singer. Some country singer got the schnoz inside of her, apparently, or something like that. And we don't know that, not confirmed for sure. Yeah, inside her heart, of course. Uh, but that's what an Eskimo brother is, 2-on-1 type of thing. So whoever this country singer is, we don't know. We don't know if this actually happened. Don't know where it came from, but that is something that Nick has accused Sean of being, apparently, because he overheard Sean talking about it in the house. So as you can imagine, Sean was furious about that, and Caitlin had some reservations, though apparently not enough, because she forgives him as always and genuinely looks distraught every time Sean questions her, which is pretty often. So that sit down was something interesting. There was actually two of them. One that Sean went into Nick's place for to grill him on that, and then another one was after Sean's overnight when he's coming back. Well, who else is going to greet you in front of your hotel room but Nick standing around randomly and awkwardly in a corner? So yeah, that was, I don't know why he invited himself, but that was round two of Sean Schnozling going off on Nick, who just couldn't, was taking it. Basically, couldn't come up with a anything to fire back at him at. He just took it, and that was it. So there you go. Sean Schnozling, the hatred keeps on spewing versus Nick. I've never seen on a Bachelor, I don't think anyone has seen two guys hate each other more, especially the hatred that comes from Schnozling to Nick than those two guys. I mean, that is some epic stuff. I mean, you can build a series around that. Those two guys clearly hate each other, and interestingly enough, Caitlin likes both of them. So we don't know exactly what reason or why what she sees in both of them in the other sense. I think with Sean it's maybe the looks and I don't know the appeal he might have as a manly man, and Nick it just manipulation, maybe just getting into Caitlin's head and sweet talking her and telling her sweet words and stuff whatever he does. So that's apparently the reason that she likes each one of them. Which is awkward, but it's something we can be surprised about because it's been setting up that way from the beginning. So that's what it is. And that's what we're going to find out in the final. But before the final, there was a Men Tell All episode. As always, a popular episode where you might learn some new things and hear some things you haven't heard on the show and some gossip and rumors, but this Men Tell All was kind of underwhelming. I mean, you obviously had Clint there, so the focus was with him and JJ, their relationship being exploited, and clearly those two guys weren't gay or anything. They were just playing up, and they pretty much admitted it. But they were really fond of each other in an intellectual, way, as JJ elaborated on that, saying that he just found Clint so much more stimulating intellectually. Yeah. just as he was popping his zits in the shower. I'm sure. Very stimulating activity. But yeah, those two guys definitely have a fondness for each other, sort of a brotherhood. So that was explored a lot. Chris Harrison grilled JJ on that. Then you had also Ian. And Ian was just kneeling and begging everyone, yeah, with his interesting exit where he just blew himself up as, should be the next Bachelor, that he's Princeton graduate, that he has women all over him, that his ex looked better than Caitlyn. He had a lot to make up for. So he started out the show pretty much by kneeling in front of the guys. I don't know if he was going to pray or do what, but he knelt in front of everyone and apologized for his antics and, the stuff he said about the guys. So everyone actually kind of took it in, and we saw a better side of Ian, the side that we kind of expected in the beginning, when we saw the promos for him. But yeah, so Ian was apologetic. That was the theme of his show, of his thing on the show. You had a lot of talk from Corey. Corey with a Y, EY, whatever, Corey. Don't know who he is. Don't know why he talks so much, and don't know why he was there. He had an opinion on everything. Everything that was talked about, Corey chimed in on. Once again, don't know who he is. Why is he there? And what does he have to say? Talk about grabbing a 15 seconds of fame and holding on to it. That was Corey. He's very forgettable, so let's forget about that. Also, I mean, the focus was on some of the main people, which one of them was, of course, Jared, who made it really far. Jared, I mean, his exit, one thing, he did exit gracefully and graciously and just like a complete gentleman. He really did. Caitlyn was really, really kind of down about that one. That was one elimination. She was really feeling sorrow and, questioning her judgment in a sense, where Jared was so nice and gracious with his exit and, tried to walk her to the door, not being walked to the limo himself. So just a classy act, even though I like to poke fun at him for being a 12-year-old in a grown man's body. But, well, besides the face, looks like a 12-year-old. But he's truly a nice guy. There's no question about it. And Caitlyn definitely felt that. And there's a lot of talk about Jared. And, he remained classy and explained himself, what he was feeling. And basically just take away from Jared is that he was, just happy about the experience and having lasting memories. He did fall for Caitlyn, and he's still kind of recovering in a sense, moving on, as he said. But Chris Harrison tried to egg him on, like, "Have you gotten over her?" And it seems like he has. But yeah, that was a focus. Jared's still good guy, Jared. Then there was Ben Z. We saw him in a hot seat with Chris Harrison, and they had the video package of him and his journey, and a lot of it focused on his mother passing away, which was kind of his theme in a sense, that everything kind of went around that. And he's a sensitive guy for a reason, and that was probably one of the major ones, is that he's been through a lot. And Benzie was blindsided in a sense. He was not aware that he was not that high up on Caitlyn's rank and that he was eliminated, so that came as a shock to him when he got eliminated in Dublin, I believe. He made it to the final 5-6, so yeah, he still got pretty far. Favorite lotion cream? He has a huge following. Women love him. I mean, you could hear the cheers in the crowd, and everyone just popped for him when he was there. Clearly, this guy's not gonna have an issue finding a woman. Chris Harrison elaborated on that, but definitely also a genuine guy. I can definitely see Ben H, Jared, and Ben Z being close friends. Sort of like the Brian Marcus and Chris Soules in the previous season. I see those guys kind of being friends together, and it seems they're all genuine, nice dudes who, are there for the right reasons. And Ben Z was there for the right reasons, no question. Then, of course, there's Ben H and Mr. No Zero Personality, as I call him. He the talk about him was that he definitely was in love with Caitlyn, no question about it. Uh, the thing about him was that he just wanted to know what changed. He had apparently a lot going on with Caitlyn, but something changed. And then unaired, yes, off camera, thing that we found out was probably the biggest tidbit of this whole episode was that apparently Caitlyn had come into the room that Ben H and Schnozling were sharing, and she had like a 6 hour overnight conversation with all three of them. Interesting. Um, and something changed when Ben H went to a shower and she stayed with Schnozling. And when he came back from a shower, everything was changed. Well, first of all, you do not leave her with another guy and take a shower unless she's going to the shower with you and leave the schnoz in the room. So you blew it there, Ben H. But that was the time we found out where she told him, that is Schnozling, she told the schnoz that he was her chosen one, her front runner. And that was also a big thing about his whole jealousy, being that she had mentioned to him that he was the front runner off camera, and he just kept on leaning on that, and that's where his jealousy and insecurity kind of blew up from, her promising him that he was the one, and he was the chosen one in a sense. So he was leaning on that through a long time, and that's what happened. That was the off-camera thing that changed everything, and Ben H noticed that too. Then, of course, Caitlyn comes out. Um, there's a lot of talk about her being bullied on social media, and Chris Harrison read some tweets, pretty nasty actually, about her, sexcapades and the type of person she is. So she's taking some rough shots on social media. Well, I mean, some of it is somewhat justified. I mean, she did kind of hook up with a guy midway through the show, so I could see where that would upset people and the guys in itself. Koopa seemed to have a problem. Yes, Koopa was back. He basically kind of tried to latch on the whole Nick thing, why she brought him in, that that all these guys left their lives and families to come out looking for love, and how she told everyone that there's a husband in the room the first night, and yet she goes and has this love affair with Nick, and everyone got to see what they went through, obviously watching the show, how her and Nick were, she was giddy about him and they were connecting. So I think Koopa actually had a good point there, and Corey backed him up on it, of course. Corey, whoever he is. But JJ seemed to defend Caitlyn, JJ and Tanner, in a way, saying that she, had the right to find whoever she wanted, and if she wanted to be Nick, then, that was perfectly fair because that's her life and she's choosing the man for her life. Look at JJ coming to bed. How about that? But yeah, so that was a little controversy, the whole slut shamming, as they call it, which was pretty rough. And then everyone gives Caitlyn a standing ovation, the guys in the audience, which I think that was going overboard. It's not like she's like some survivor of cancer or something, really worthy of, complimenting and then giving a standing ovation for. I mean, yeah, she's dealt with some rough stuff, but that's what you kind of set yourself up for when you go on a national television show that's reality based and dating based. So you are gonna get criticism, and you just gotta roll with the punches because you sign up for it. Could have been Brit, right? And yeah, so the show basically was not too eventful. The guys personally asked Caitlyn questions such as Jared and also Ben H. But she kind of gave the end around. Jared was wondering if there had been a cocktail party before his elimination, if things would have changed. She kind of told him straight up, no, it wouldn't, right, Jared? Because you had no chance of making the top three. And then Ben H wanted to know about the whole Sean thing, and obviously watching the show, he knew that she had told him, reassured him that he was in a running, he was the one, so he knew his answer there. But the thing was that he was wondering if she would have told him if he had lasted longer, made it to the final, if she had told him about the whole Nick hookup, which she said she would, but we'll never know. It's revisionist history, right? But Caitlyn looked damn hot, I'll say that. Sexy dress, boy. I can see why they were all out there for her. Looking good for sure. And yeah, the episode ended with Josh, mumbling Josh, who no one knows what he's talking about, dressed in a bird costume. Well, basically, it was a mask. So, yes, a pigeon mask. So, funny guy there. Yeah, good job, Josh. Boy, what a mess that guy is. Just a mumbling, bumbling guy. And it got really far, actually, too. That was a surprise. I don't know how he made it, but he did. So, that was that. And then the show ended kind of uneventful and not much to take away from the men tell all. I mean, I think the two most controversial guys are left for the end. Had they been a tell-all, one of them, that would have definitely changed things around. But that's it. That sets up a final that we saw a preview of, and that should be interesting for sure. Definitely the two are squaring off. They're going to meet Caitlyn's family in the final episode. There are some spoilers and teasers that Caitlyn kind of linked herself with the whole Snapchat thing with her and Schnozling. So it might not be the most exciting or surprising or shocking finale, since those of you have followed social media know she kind of gave it away who she's gonna pick. But that is definitely going to be an interesting way to see how she gets there and how the proposal goes and how that all turns out. And will Nick actually be left at the altar once again 2 seasons in a row? Kind of looks like it for him. Definitely probably will be making an appearance next season's Bachelorette, knowing him. But yeah, will that be the end of the road for Nick again, or it won't? We will see on the finale, which is shaping up to be a fun one, at least. Maybe not as shocking or unpredictable, but I mean, you never know. Maybe she just did it to tease everyone. Maybe Nick will be the guy at the end. But I'm leaning toward just Schnoz. Schnozling being the man of her dreams. We will find out in the finale, which is always an exciting episode and fun show that will leave everyone talking. I think after the final rose is going to be much more interesting than the finale. So that's something to look out for, especially if Nick's going to be there, and see what happens with that. So, great season, a lot of drama. Things have been done differently for sure, and it all caps off with a finale. And then we will head off to Bachelor in Paradise, which seems from the promos like it's going to be insane. A lot of people from Caitlyn's season and also Chris's season. So there's pretty much a mix of those two seasons. We're going to have Tanner from what we've seen. We're going to have JJ. A lot of those guys are going to be on Bachelor in Paradise. Ashley I, a lot of crying from her as we've seen in the promos. That's something to look out for. Finale's upon us, and I'll be back again, I promise, to review the finale and preview Bachelor in Paradise. So until then, enjoy the finale, and I'll be back.